What's up, everybody? Welcome in to Payoff Pitch, Action Network's MLB betting podcast, Friday, October 27th. Welcome, Charlie DiSturco. Welcome, Tanner McGrath. They have yet to weigh in, at least on the podcast, on the 2023 World Series. Your host, Brendan Glasheen. We are presented by BetMGM. Join us on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. Games 3, 4, and 5. A game 5, if necessary, of course, in Arizona between the Texas Rangers and Arizona Diamondbacks. There are 3 games in a row, Monday through Wednesday next week. Games over the weekend. That's a reminder to stay locked into the Action Network app for articles, picks, further insight. Guys like Charlie and Tanner are all over it as far as betting before the games begin. And giving their analysis after games happen for their picks for the following game and so on and so forth. So be sure to be locked into the app as well as the website. Also, please leave a 5-star rating and review on the podcast wherever you are listening. If you're watching on the Action Network YouTube channel, if you haven't subscribed already, please do. Also, like the video. We appreciate it. It helps us out to grow the channel. Okay, dudes, we did a show yesterday with Zerillo, BJ, and DeBundo. We did a quick 4-minute Philly post-mortem because I didn't think it was going to happen. It happened at the end of the show. And there's DeBundo giving me every reason why. I'm like, dude, come on. It's over. We're moving on. So it's Rangers D-backs game 1 tonight. You can watch it on Fox. It's in Arlington. I'll go to you first, Charlie. You're actually going to dive into a market we couldn't get into yesterday because it wasn't available yet, and it pertains to one of the starting pitchers.
Yeah, hopefully DeBundo had his milk yesterday, at least to help him through.
He didn't. That's the other thing. He didn't bring his milk, and that would have maybe cheered him up. But he didn't.
Maybe that's just a negative. That's just it keeps going. The Phillies lose, no milk. Maybe he's out. But I like Nate Eovaldi over 15.5 outs. I believe it's jumped up to about minus 130, 140 range. I still like it there. In 4 postseason starts for Eovaldi, he has gone 20, 21, 18, and 19 outs. And they're hanging a 16 here, or I guess 15.5 technically, at home against an Arizona Diamondbacks offense that, quite frankly, isn't good. There's
here we go again.
Overperformed. Over the last 30 days, Brendan, they're 26th in WRC plus and 29th in OPS. Do they hit timely home runs and hit timely at bats? Yes, but if you watch, especially on the road, their splits are much worse. And that's just what it comes down to, is that at the end of the day, the offensive advantage is clearly in Texas' favor, and in this matchup, I really like targeting Eovaldi. I don't really have a feel on the side or the total, but I do have a feel with Eovaldi. And with Bruce Bochy, he's an OG. He's been there. He's done that. He's won countless World Series. He's given Montgomery and Eovaldi the longest leashes of just about any starting pitcher that we've seen this postseason. And both of them have gone over 15.5 outs all but one time when Monty was ripped up by Baltimore, 4 innings, 88 pitches. And Eovaldi's pitched deep into every game. He's had 88 to 98 pitches, all postseason starts. Our biggest concern was he was struggling at the end of the year, his velocity, his pitches, his pitch count, whatever. Well, he's put all of that aside, and he's absolutely shredded. So against the Diamondbacks offense that I'm not high on, and listen, they've proven me wrong just about every step of the way. But I think in this one, even if they get to Eovaldi and give him 2 to 3 runs, he's going to pitch 5-6 innings. I think Bochy realizes that at the end of the day, he's better than the middle relief. And I think that no image better encapsulates that than when Eovaldi had the bases loaded against the Astros in a very high leverage situation. And instead of going to the bullpen, he kept Eovaldi out there, and he struck out Yanner Diaz, Altuve, and then got a ground out to get out of a bases loaded no out jam. So Eovaldi over 15.5 outs, minus 120 is my first one. And you want me to give my second one?
Sure, go for it.
All right, it's a hold your nose play. It's Marcus Semien over 1.5 total bases at plus money, plus 110, I believe, is the best number at BetMGM. He has 2 extra base hits this postseason and is hitting 192, but this is a great buy low spot. He hits in front of Seager. He hits in front of Carter, both guys with plus eyes and also lefties. So could we see a lefty, get thrown out there before Semien? Possibly, which he's even better against. But this is a guy that had a 40% extra base hit rate this season against right-handed pitching, 39.4%. And he averaged about 1 home run every 18.5 at-bats against righties and 1 home run every 62 at-bats against lefties. So clearly the power came against the right-handed side of the plate. And Gallen, he's bottom 5% of all pitchers in hard hit rate, has really struggled in the playoffs with a 5.24 ERA. His command a bit wonky, but rather than attacking, a walk prop or runs prop or whatever, because Gallen has shredded the Rangers in the past, I do think Semien holds some value here at plus 110 to have total bases. And I believe his home run prop is right around the 500, 520 mark too. So a little dabble in that, a little 777s-esque play.
Okay. Very good. Yeah, I can't argue with Evaldi too. And I was just looking back because when he was in the World Series with the Red Sox in 2018, I think what won a lot of people over, and Tanner, you can attest to this too, when he came out of the bullpen in Los Angeles and gave them 6 innings. Now, I realize he was a reliever that whole series. He didn't start in previous games. My point being is, and Zarilla brought this up yesterday, there's a real chance because Evaldi can stretch out and give you everything he's got. He could pitch tonight. He could pitch in game 4 or 5, and he could also pitch in game 7, right? Or was it 1, 4, and 7? That's what I meant to say, right? 1, 4, and 7. That would be the path, which is why he liked Evaldi at 18-1 for World Series MVP.
Yeah, that's why they did that with Montgomery, but they pitched Montgomery out of the pen in game 7 rather than
right.
Yeah.
Okay. So right, exactly. So now it sets up where Evaldi's your game 1 starter.
Correct.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, but yeah, I feel Bruce Bochy, he likes starting pitchers. He's fun. He's like old school. Sure, you're going to keep throwing. You're going to go third time through, eat some innings. But at the same time, I wonder if Texas does get out to a good start. Maybe they try to preserve Evaldi, but at this point, there's at max 7 games to go. You got to take every game pretty seriously, especially this freaking annoying D-backs team, Tanner. Who has not? This team hasn't been punked yet, Tanner. Here we are, another Diamondbacks series preview.
I know, and I'm actually, I'm finally.
Are you going to get guilted into picking this team to win this World Series?
Well, I don't know who wins the series. I have no pick on the series, but I am finally buying back on the Snakes in game 1. I think the line is a tad too high for Arizona. I caught plus 145. It's awesome if you can get plus 140. Plus 135 at BetMGM is still good. And as far as Charlie's take, I kind of agree with one thing and I kind of disagree with another thing. And, I think the world of Nathan Eovaldi, who has been spectacular in his postseason career. Like Brendan said, I'm a Red Sox fan, so the 2018 World Series was special. He has a 2.9 ERA across 69 postseason innings. He slipped a bit against Houston. 5 earned runs again across 12 1/3 innings. He walked 3 to only 4 strikeouts in his game 6 starts. Charlie said he's kind of put everything aside. I'm not sure if he has. He allowed 10 of his 35 batted balls to go for an average exit velocity over 100 miles an hour in the ALCS. 4 of those came on his heralded splitter, which I think is a bit worrisome. Arizona was a top 10 team by OPS and slugging against splitters on the season. One guy who has had success against Nasty Nate in the past, Lourdes Gurriel, 7 for 18 with 2 home runs. Against Baltimore and Tampa, Evaldi was painting corners. I mean, he was just perfect in those series. 15 strikeouts, no walks, a 113 location plus. Against Houston, his location plus metric dropped to 98. His stuff plus mark in those 2 starts was only 84. His pitching plus was only 95. Both those marks were the lowest among all 10 starting pitchers in the 2 championship series. His usually elite splitter received a 73 mark. His four-seam fastball dropped to 89. I have some questions about him after that performance. Just enough questions to grab a big plus money number with his opponent. Everyone knows that I am much lower on Gallen, as we all are. I mean, he's clearly overvalued. He hasn't pitched well during this postseason run. 5.2 ERA in 4 starts. He got crushed by Philly. His batted ball profile isn't pretty. But one of the things about Gallen's surge as a Cy Young candidate over the last 2 seasons or so is his pitch mix adjustment. Started throwing way more curveballs, cut down on his slider usage, which he now never throws. Texas was an average team against curveballs this year. They were outside the top 10 in weighted curveball runs created, around league average in OPS, expected weighted on base average against right-handed curves. I think maybe he can neutralize him a bit with that main secondary pitch, which, by the way, had a 121 stuff plus in the regular season. And he did that in a few starts against Texas this year. 2 starts, 4 earned runs over 11 innings pitch. Texas didn't draw a lot of walks against curveballs this year, just a 3% walk rate, so it held their OBP down. Well, Gallen in those 2 starts had 17 strikeouts to only 1 walk, and 6 came on the curveball, as I mentioned. He managed to hold, this is Gallen held Seager, Garcia, Lowe, Garver, Heim, and Taveras, and Jung to only 11 for 56 with 2 extra base hits. 21 strikeouts to 2 walks.
When was it? And just to clarify, when is this in career? This career head to head?
Yeah, sorry. So, in the 2 starts this season, he had 17 strikeouts to 1 walks with 4 earned.
Okay, this year.
And then against lifetime against those 6 hitters, he's held them 11 for 56.
Got it.
2 extra base hits, 21 strikeouts to 2 walks. So he's done well against this lineup in the past, including this season. The one guy that killed Gallen was Marcus Semien, who went 5 for 8 with 2 doubles and a walk to only 1 strikeout. And I like Semien in this game, like Charlie does. I actually don't mind him for World Series MVP. If he gets off to a hot start in game 1, he's around 15-1. He's been ice cold during the playoffs, but we know how often guys just kind of get hot randomly. This feels like a time where Semien could do just that. Now, while the starting pitching matchup, like I'm a little lower on Eovaldi, I think the biggest part about this handicap for me is Arizona's bullpen. The Snakes have a monstrous reliever advantage over the Rangers. I mean, the Rangers pen boasts a FIP and an expected FIP in the mid-5s during this playoff run. They've allowed the second highest hard contact rate of any bullpen during the run. They have the second lowest stuff plus and location plus metric among postseason bullpens. Second highest barrel rate, most hard hit balls. Do you trust Jose Leclerc? Do you trust Aroldis Chapman? I don't. Meanwhile, the Snakes, sub 3 bullpen ERA, 3.4 bullpen FIP during this run, 110 stuff plus mark. They have the highest bullpen win probability added of any postseason bullpen because Kevin Ginkel and Paul Sewell have been lights out in high leverage situations, combined for 17 scoreless innings during this playoff run. Sewell has a 142 stuff plus mark. He just shoves fastball sweeper. Nobody can hit it. The relief unit went 9 scoreless innings in games 6 and 7 of the NLCS against the Phillies. And look, obviously Texas has the much better lineup, and like none of us really like the Snakes lineup, but time and time again, they get on base and they create havoc and they figure out how to get runs around. It just happens. Ultimately, for me, this handicap is threefold. I think Eovaldi is a tad overpriced here because everyone knows how elite he's been in the postseason. It's the second World Series he'll be in. But I think he showed some vulnerabilities against Houston, and I don't love this matchup for him. And I think the public will overlook that and just hammer Nasty Nate. Second, I don't hate the matchup for Gallen. And in the late innings, in a close game, I will take the Snakes every day of the week and twice on Sunday in the bullpen. Snakes won 3 of 4 against Texas in the regular season. I'll take them to win game 1 on the road.
Okay. I do like just to push back slightly. Like, first off, Leclerc, I would trust. Everyone else, not so much. But 2,
yeah, Leclerc just allowed an all-time hitter to beat him in a big spot. Like,
and he gave up a hit to the 8 hitter and then walked the 9 guy.
He also was completely overused so much in that series, and now has time off. So maybe later in the series I'd be more wary of it, but in the early part I'm not. But and in general, I agree with you in that the D-backs bullpen is better than the Texas bullpen, and I don't have a feel on the side or total. And I think that at the end of the day, regardless of how Eovaldi does, he's better than that middle relief, which is why my handicap of this game is more toward him going over his prop, because I don't think that Bochy is going to take him out, even if he has 3 or 4 runs allowed in the 5th. Like, he's probably going to go out for that 6th, because at the end of the day, you're going to throw out, like, other than what Josh Boers and Leclerc, and then like, you don't have anybody. Like, you're going to throw out Dane Dunning, Andrew Heaney. I don't even know who. I have to look at their roster, but like the guys in the middle, Bradford. Like, no, you're not going to throw out Bradford. That's the white flag. So, yeah. And then the second thing, and also just like the Astros offense is also significantly better than Arizona's. So, and Arizona, they're a very righty heavy team. Obviously there's Carroll and Marte can switch on both sides, but that's my biggest concern is that they struggle against right-handed pitching. And over the last 30 days that's been seen, they've just been able to, like you said, create havoc on the bases. And which is why I don't have which is why I'm not taking Texas at all in this series or these games, because every time I seem to fade Arizona, they somehow do something where it's, they take a walk because and then they steal second, and then they hit a single, then they steal second. It's the same thing that happened with Texas in game 7 against Javier. You get on, you start getting a pitcher uncomfortable. I'm not so sure Nate gets uncomfortable, but in general, I lean snakes based on the pricing of this matchup. But I do think that Eovaldi goes deep into this game.
Eovaldi could still go deep and still give up a few runs. I mean, a big thing about him is he does well first time through the order, and then he sinks a bit second time through the order. He has like a 4.9 ERA second time through, and then he's great third time through the order. So I just think he's overpriced. I think he's getting juiced in the markets, even though his stuff was like a little bit down over the last few starts. He could still put up 6 innings, but if he gives up 3 runs and then you go into the later innings with a 3-3 ball game, snakes at plus money, that's a great price.
Yeah. No, I like the handicap on the side. I'm just I'm a bit wary of Gallen, as we all are, but I don't disagree that the price is too high. You just have a bigger cojones than I do than to take a side right now on this game.
Well, I've lost so much money fading the snakes. It's time I actually make some money.
Or lose money taking them.
BJ Cunningham gave out a pick yesterday in our series preview, the series double, where he took Arizona to win game 1 and Texas to win the series. That's priced at plus 390 if you shop around. Something else that Tanner brought up that I think is interesting, and just using the conversation with the guys from yesterday as a jumping off point, game 4 of the Phillies series for Arizona, that's when they had their bullpen game. So perhaps, Tanner, to your point, if it doesn't go swimmingly for Gallen, Arizona could use some of those higher leverage arms today and then still be all right for Tuesday's game 4, just based on the timing of when they want to plan out that bullpen game. So a lot of good points, a lot of good back and forth. Charlie, couple of futures you want to give out before we wrap up, and then Tanner, if you have anything to add as far as World Series MVP or some player specials that Charlie's going to jump into. Go ahead, Charles.
Yes. So last NLCS, I gave out Schwarber 8-1 to lead the NLCS in homers. I'm giving out Christian Walker. I believe it's 950 right now. He leads Arizona in isolated power. He's 4th among every single player on Arizona and Texas in isolated power. Carter being in there, but it's a small sample size. And I just like Walker's outlook here. He hasn't been great in the postseason, but as we saw with Schwarber didn't have an amazing NLDS, and then all of a sudden he erupted for 5 home runs in the CS. I think that's something we could see with Walker. He's one of the best D-backs when it comes to barreling the baseball. He's one of the best players in this series when it comes to barreling this baseball. So at a near 10-1 number, I think it's way too long. I don't know how many guys are going to hit like 3 to 5 home runs. And I think Walker's one of the few that has that capability. And the guys like Seager and Adolis, they're way too juiced down. So I like taking a stab on Walker here. And then Evan Carter, 13-1 to lead the World Series in hits. He has a hit in every single game but one this postseason. Hit 300 when he got called up as a rookie. And I think I don't think it's like a far cry to say that he has one of the best eyes I've ever seen out of a hitter. They call him full count Carter because he literally gets to a 3-2 count all the time. He's very selective. He is one of the better hitters in baseball. And then he benefits from just hitting behind Semien and Seager, who, if they get on the base paths or if there's open bases in front of them, pitchers are more inclined to pitch around them and attack a guy like Carter, who's a rookie in a big moment. So I like Carter to lead the series in hits here. I think he's a on-base machine. My biggest concern is that he, walks too many times and then we don't get this hits number. But at 13-1, when looking at some of the other players that he's priced around, I think that it's a bit too long. So those are my 2. And I like the Eovaldi World Series MVP look too, but obviously you heard Zerillo talk about that yesterday.
Yeah, so let's see where he's at now. Nathan Eovaldi. Maybe he's moved up this board. Eovaldi 14-1.
Yeah.
So. Okay. And that's, of course, the idea there is the series goes long and he pitches 3 times and he gets a win.
Even if he throws game 1 and game 4 and they win in 5 and he throws 14 innings of 1-run balls, shoves, and they win those 2 games handily and it's like low scoring games.
Right.
Acting games, that he's still more than alive to win that. I mean, if we theoretically speaking, if Wheeler had come in and the Phillies had come back and won and it wasn't Schwarber, like Wheeler would have been more than live to win the NLCS MVP based on just his production as a whole. But obviously things did not go as planned. And also Schwarber did have 5 home runs.
Any look, Tanner, from a bigger picture series perspective, a player special, World Series MVP?
Yeah, I'll just reiterate the Marcus Semien look. I like him for World Series MVP. It's 16-1. Again, he's been ice cold, but that just doesn't matter. These guys get hot in the playoffs at random times. I think he has a great matchup in game 1, which means he can get out to a hot start, and then people will be talking about him. Couple other things. This is from Zerillo's World Series preview on the Action Network app. He's hitting out the leadoff spot, so he projects to lead Texas in both plate appearances and runs scored. He prices that closer to plus 1,000. He could lead the series in hits, and I just think that at 16-1, Semien is worth a shot. I was also thinking about taking over 50.5 total series runs. I have not pulled the trigger yet, but again, Texas slugs the ball. Both pitching staffs have questions. Arizona just figures out how to score, and in 4 games between these two teams in the regular season, they had 45 total runs. 3 of the 4 went over. 1 fell short by 1 run, I believe. So I was looking at that. I need to find a good line for that somewhere. But yeah, check the Action Network app.
I mean, hey, these games are going to be in Arlington, Texas, and Phoenix, Arizona. So we're not getting cold, freezing cold environments. Also, maybe that's how people that aren't psyched about this non-sexy World Series, there's just a lot of scoring. That could make it fun.
You could also wait till they announce that the roof is open or closed. And then if that's a big change when it comes to at least Texas. Like if they're playing in a domed environment, it's a little bit less than versus being outside. So, but be sure to like pay attention to all of that stuff. Like there's things that like you can really hone in on and play on a game to game basis. And that's why you follow some of us in the app too. Like we will be breaking down. And if we see something like that and it spurs an idea or a thought, like we're going to put it in the app. That's where everything is.
That's a good point because the total has moved to 8.5 as we've recorded. I think it was at 8 when we started. So
is it juiced or is it 110?
Nope, even money, 110 for each side.
Oh, interesting. That's I think I'm right
on that, right? It was 8 when we started recording the show. So
it was 8 plus money this morning. 8.5 minus 120. I lean the under, but also like at the same time, like I'm scared of Zach Gallen and Tanner's made an argument why you should be afraid of Eovaldi in that bullpen. So I probably will sit back, root for my props, and root for runs because that's how you should be rooting for baseball games. I don't know. Not actually, but I just like more runs.
Well, you're just on the side of props now these days as opposed to picking a side or a total.
Yeah, well, because the Arizona Diamondbacks have just ruined me.
Okay, so from what I've gathered, at least for tonight, Tanner likes Arizona, and that's what we've established for this game 1. Okay.
It's a kiss of death.
Game 2 is on Saturday. So again, it's a good call out by Tanner. Zerillo has his full World Series preview up at actionnetwork.com. You can find it in the app. When you go to our baseball tab, it's the first thing that comes up. So be sure to read that. And any picks the guys add, these two, DeBundo, if he gets out of his cave after crying and drinking milk about the Phillies, if he decides to now see DeBundo, we had him on the NFL podcast yesterday. He's all in on the NFL now. He's all these NFL picks now for DeBundo.
It's a Philly fan that's like, oh well, go Birds.
Yeah, go Birds. Yeah. Anyway, so DeBundo, Zerillo, BJ, Colin Whitchurch, you guys will be active in the app this weekend, and we will be back for a Monday episode, Game 3 preview when the series shifts to Arizona. That'll do it. You all have a great weekend. Enjoy this World Series. We'll have you covered at Action Network. For Tanner and Charlie, Brendan Glasheen, thanks for listening to Payoff Pitch, Action Network's MLB betting podcast presented by BetMGM. Oh, and also Monday, we'll be giving out a free subscription to Action Pro, a 1-year subscription if you leave a 5-star rating and review. So be sure to do that today if you haven't done so yet this week. And we'll give that out on Monday as well. Everyone have a great weekend. Enjoy. Talk to you next week.